everyone, this is Lana from Lana Under Pressure, and in this video I'm going to share with you my 3 copycat recipes that will give you a homemade replica to replace each one of these Goya seasonings. Now there are a lot of recipes out there that give you homemade versions of each one of these seasonings, but what makes my video and my recipes different is I didn't just want something to replace these seasonings, I wanted to find a homemade option that is a copycat, almost a carbon copy or a clone of each one of these. I did a lot of work. This kitchen looked like a mad scientist laboratory, and it took a few days, but I came up with a homemade version of the Goya Adobo, the Goya Sazonador Total, and the Sazon Goya con Asafran. 3 different recipes that you can use to completely replace these Goya brands, and you won't even know the difference. The first recipe I'm going to show you is my copycat homemade version of Goya Adobo. And other than the additives that we don't want in it, adobo is only made up of 4 ingredients: salt, garlic powder, oregano, and turmeric. But what's important is not only the ratio of each one of these, but also the grind. Goya Adobo is very fine, and so it's great for not only sprinkling on foods, but also to help it dissolve in marinades and to dissolve in sauces. We're going to start with preparing the oregano. And again, because adobo is so fine, we want to make sure that we crush the oregano so it's almost a powder consistency. And I find that a mortar and pestle does that really well. But you can use your herb grinder, or you can put it in a Ziploc bag and crush it using a rolling pin or something like that. So in here I have 1 teaspoon of oregano, and I'm just going to crush it until it's like a powder consistency. And just sift the oregano and push it through the strainer so that you don't get any of the larger pieces. Now that we have our oregano prepared, we're going to add the rest of our ingredients.
3 tablespoons garlic powder, 3 tablespoons table salt, 1 teaspoon of the ground oregano, and a half a teaspoon turmeric.
Now that we've added all our ingredients, we're going to give it a quick stir. And you can use it as is, just put it in a glass jar or a shaker, however you want. But what I like to do is I like to give it a grind in my coffee grinder. And now I use this one, this is the Krups, and I like this one a lot. It's small, so I have to do this in batches. So I'll add half to the grinder, and I'm gonna pulse this 6 times.
And here is my side-by-side comparison of my homemade adobo, which is on the left, and the Goya brand, which is on the right. And as you can see, they're almost indistinguishable. The Goya brand has a little bit more yellow color to it, but that might be because of the additives. My proudest moment, though, was when I did a blind taste test with my family, and they actually said they tasted almost exactly the same, but they liked the homemade one better because they felt like the Goya was just a little too salty. So, yay me!
My next copycat recipe is to replace Goya Sazonador Total. And this one is a little bit more complex because it has a few more spices, but also the grind is a little thicker, so there are a little bit bigger pieces of the different herbs and seasonings.
I got this ingredient list off the back of the bottle and created my own ratio, starting with 2 tablespoons garlic powder, 1 tablespoon dehydrated garlic, 1 tablespoon onion powder, 1 tablespoon dehydrated minced onion, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano, a half a teaspoon of cumin, 1 tablespoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of MSG. You can leave the MSG out if you don't want to use it, but I find that it adds a great flavor boost. And the brand that I use is Accent, and you can find that in stores or online.
Once you have all your ingredients for the seasonings in a bowl, mix them together really well.
And again, because I have a small grinder, I have to do this in batches. So I do this half at a time. And I'll just put this in my grinder. And We want these pieces again to be a little bit bigger. You want to be able to see the oregano and the parsley, so I'm going to pulse this like 4 times. And you can look at it, and if you want it to be pulsed a little bit more, you can do so, but I found that 4 pretty good pulses was just enough. Or you can just use it as is, put it straight into a mason jar or shaker. And here is my side-by-side comparison of the Goya brand and my homemade brand. And this time, instead of me telling you which one is which, I'd love if in the comment section below, you take a guess and let me know which you think is the homemade and which you think is the Goya brand.
My last recipe is my homemade copycat recipe to replace Sazon Goya con Asafran, or Sazon with saffron. Now the Goya con Asafran does have a little bit of what they call Mexican saffron, but because saffron is so expensive and I did a taste test and really it has such little amount that there are a few other ingredients you can use to omit the saffron and you won't miss it. I found that it made no difference. If you have saffron and you want to use it, you can definitely add it to this. Now the Sazon con Asafran actually comes in a little packet, and when you make the seasoning blend, it's 1 tablespoon is equal to 1 little packet.
The amounts are 2 tablespoons garlic powder, 1 tablespoon dehydrated garlic, 2.5 tablespoons of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon MSG, 1 teaspoon turmeric, 1.5 tablespoons Bijol. Bijol is a seasoning blend used in a lot of Latin, Hispanic, and Caribbean dishes. It uses crushed annatto to not only give flavor, but to also produce that orangey red color that you're going to use in these dishes.
We're going to mix all of those ingredients together in a bowl, put them in our spice or coffee grinder, and grind them into a fine seasoning mix. Now this is important because we're using the dehydrated minced garlic and it is actually what's used in the Sazon Goya con Asafran. But because this is something that usually is dissolved in a liquid, like when you're making arroz con pollo, it needs to be very fine, just like the adobo seasoning. So it's important to grind these down. But you want to have it as fine as possible so you can add it to your liquids and it will dissolve completely.
And finally, here's my side-by-side comparison with my homemade seasoning on the left and the Goya brand on the right.
I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me at my blog, lanaunderpressure.com. Thanks for watching.